Teaching aptitude. 1.1 Introduction. Aptitude of any student is the internal ability or talent of the student which makes the difference with both student. One simply cannot cultivate aptitude, rather aptitude of the student is totally depends on the practices. To be as strong in the aptitude, student must have enormous interest in the area in which they are interested. Teaching aptitude is totally depends on individual's interest towards teaching. To be a good teacher, one must have combination of behavioral characteristics as well as cultural characteristic. The person with real teaching aptitude must be curious, open-minded, and obviously she must have in-depth knowledge of the subject, including love and faith for student. 1.2 What is teaching? Teachers are the backbone of every society and they plays a vital role in nurturing the mind of the young child. The best teacher always gives knowledge and skills in very effective ways to young students. Teaching basically means interaction of teacher and students in an interactive way where both of them participate for their mutual benefits. Both the students and teacher can have their own objective and target. Throughout the world there are many great teachers defines teaching in different ways. One-word definition of teaching. The one-word definition of teaching is just to train the students such that they can stand on their own foot in our modern society. In teaching, three main aspects are as follows: teacher, students, education. A true teacher is one with the following qualities. 1. Teacher must identify the weak student in the class. 2. Teacher live with the students mentally. 3. Teacher must love the student's education. 4. Teacher must identify knowledge of student and build the student on what they have. 5. Teacher must give his own shoulder to his student for nurturing such that students can grow mentally and physically. 6. Teacher must be friendly with his student up to a certain limit inside the classroom. 7. Teacher must be humorous inside classroom and as well as she must have capabilities to control the classroom. 8. A good teacher must have in-depth knowledge of the subject. 1.3 Role of a teacher. Teachers are the backbone of any society. There are several roles a teacher plays to make our society stronger. The way a teacher can lead students is varied from teacher to teacher. Teachers can play the role in variety of ways, either formally or informally. The following 10 roles are used by many of the teachers frequently to improve the students mentally, physically and socially. It is not only the case the teacher can be a human being, a teacher can be anyone. For example, nature can be a teacher for you if you learn something from the nature. Your mother is the best teacher for you because you learnt everything in childhood from your mother. Role of a great teacher. Following are the role of a teacher. 1. Resource provider. A teacher must help their students and colleagues by sharing instructional resources. The instructional resources might include websites, any instructional documents, any new ideas, or other resources to use with the students. 2. Instructional specialist. An instructional specialist always helps colleagues to implement effective teaching strategies in the institution. For example, if your student submits new laboratory reports written in very poor English language, you invite some English teachers to recommend the strategies for writing the instruction in laboratory reports. 3. Curriculum specialist. Curriculum specialist must understand the standard of content in the syllabus, how various subjects of the curricula links together and how to use the curriculum such that students can understand better. 4. Classroom supporter. Classroom supporters work inside classrooms to help teachers implement new ideas, often by demonstrating a lesson, co-teaching, or observing and giving feedback. 5. Learning facilitator. Facilitating professional learning opportunities among staff members is another role for teacher leaders. When teachers learn with and from one another, they can focus on what most directly improves student learning. Their professional learning becomes more relevant, focused on teachers' classroom work, and aligned to fill gaps in student learning. Such communities of learning can break the norms of isolation present in many schools. 6. Mentor. Serving as a mentor for novice teachers is a common role for teacher leaders. Mentors serve as role models, acclimate new teachers to a new school, and advise new teachers about instruction, curriculum, procedure, practices, and politics. Being a mentor takes a great deal of time and expertise and makes a significant contribution to the development of a new professional. 7. School leader. Being a school leader means serving on a committee, such as a school improvement team, acting as a grade level or department chair, supporting school initiatives, or representing the school on community or district task forces or committees. A school leader shares the vision of the school, aligns his or her professional goals with those of the school and district, and shares responsibility for the success of the school as a whole. 8. Data coach. Although teachers have access to a great deal of data, they do not often use that data to drive classroom instruction. Teacher leaders can lead conversations that engage their peers in analyzing and using this information to strengthen instruction. 9. Catalyst for change. Teacher leaders can also be catalysts for change. Teachers who take on the catalyst role feel secure in their own work and have a strong commitment to continual improvement. They pose questions to generate analysis of student learning. 10. Learner for lifelong. Among the most important roles teacher leaders assume is that of learner. Learners model continual improvement, demonstrate lifelong learning, and use what they learn to help all students achieve. Roles for all teachers exhibit leadership in multiple, sometimes overlapping, ways. Some leadership roles are formal with designated responsibilities. Other more informal roles emerge as teachers interact with their students. The variety of roles ensures that teachers can find ways to lead that fit their talents and interests. Regardless of the roles they assume, teacher leaders shape the culture of their schools, improve student learning, and influence practice among their peers. 1.4 Teachers and their tasks. Teaching is a great profession throughout the world. The person who chooses teaching as a profession must believe that all the necessary qualities he must possesses to become an effective teacher. Moreover, it is also mandatory that they must enjoy working with young kids and at the same time convinced that their effort will lead to betterment of society by nurturing the young kids. It is not a matter of fact that wherever the teacher is teaching, the teacher may teach in kindergarten or in universities. Teacher is typically confronted with the following task. 1. Preparing students for learning new topic. 2. Presenting learning activities. 3. Asking questions to student. 4. Monitoring the student's learning. 5. Giving the students feedback. 6. Reviewing the students. 7. Identifying the weak student. 8. Reteaching already taught topic. 9. Taking the tutorial classes. 10. Preparing the students' notes. 11. Preparing question banks. Task of a teacher. In short, the task of a good teacher outlined above encompasses the following points. 1. To bring the desired change in the learner's behavior. 2. To bring desired change in learner's mind. 3. To give the students sufficient knowledge about the subject. 4. To enhance the skill of the student. 5. Motivate the students to participate in social activities. 6. Motivate the students to ask for any doubt in their mind. 7. Motivate the students that they should not fear from teachers but rather they must be interactive and friendly up to a certain limit. 1.5 Characteristics of a great, good teacher. It is an accepted fact that teachers are usually not born but made. Good teachers nurture their knowledge and skills through constant and deliberate efforts. One of the prerequisites to be good teacher is to understand the teaching-learning process in more depth. Greatness in teaching is just as rare as greatness in medicine, dance, law, or any other profession. Teaching is all about hard work, and in this profession some teachers become a great teacher and they became the idol of their students, and other teachers never grow to be anything better than mediocre. The great teachers, however, work endlessly to create a challenging, nurturing environment for the dear students. A great teaching seems to have less to do with the knowledge and skills than with our attitude towards our students, subjects, our work. Although this list is certainly not all-inclusive, I have narrowed down the many characteristics of a great teacher to those have found to be the most essential, regardless of the age of the learner. 1. A great teacher respects students. A great teacher inside classroom must be friendly such that every student ideas and opinions are valued equally. Students must feel safe to express their thoughts and feelings and learn to respect and listen to other students. In a single word, a great teacher classroom must be a welcoming learning environment for all the students. 2. A great teacher creates a sense of community and belonging in the classroom. A great teacher creates a small important community inside the classroom. There must be a mutual respect in the classroom which provides a supportive and collaborative environment. In this small environment there are rules to follow and each student must be aware that they are an important integral part of the group. A great teacher lets students know that they can depend not only on teacher, but also on the entire class. 3. A great teacher sets high expectations for all students. Student expectation must be hardly be in a great teacher's classroom. Teachers must know that students generally ask questions or any doubt present in their mind. 4. A great teacher has his own love of learning. A great teacher always inspires his student with his passion for education and for the course material. Teacher constantly renews themselves as a professional to provide student with the high quality of education possible. Great teacher should not have any kind of fear of learning new teaching strategies for incorporating new technologies inside classroom. 5. A great teacher is a skilled leader different from administrative leaders. Effective teachers focus on shared decision-making and teamwork, as well as on community building. This great teacher conveys the sense of leadership to students by providing opportunities for each of them to assume leadership roles. 6. A great teacher can shift gears. A great teacher can shift gears and is flexible when a lesson isn't working. This teacher assesses his teaching throughout the lessons and finds new ways to present material to make sure that every student understands the key concepts. 7. A great teacher collaborates with colleagues on an ongoing basis. Rather than thinking of himself, herself as weak because she asks for suggestions or help, this teacher views collaboration as a way to learn from a fellow professional. A great teacher uses constructive criticism and advice as an opportunity to grow as an educator. 8. A great teacher maintains professionalism in all areas, from personal appearance to organizational skills and preparedness for each day. Her communication skills are exemplary, whether she is speaking with an administrator, one of her students or a colleague. The respect great teacher receives because of her professional manner is obvious to those around him, her. Nature and characteristics of teaching. 1. The main character of teaching is to provide guidance and training. 2. Teaching is interaction between teacher and students. 3. Teaching is an art to give knowledge to students in an effective way. 4. Teaching is a science to educate fact and causes of different topics of different subjects. 5. Teaching is continuous process. 6. Teacher can teach effectively, if he has full confidence on the subject. 7. Teaching encourages students to learn more and more. 8. Teaching is formal as well as informal. 9. Teaching is communication of information to students. In teaching, teacher imparts information in interesting way so that students can easily understand the information. 10. Teaching is a tool to help student to adjust himself in society and its environment. 1.6 Method of teaching. Teaching is a very complex process which brings socially desirable behavioral change in a person. Teaching process takes place between teacher and learner. It is an interactive process which is initiated by the teacher where learner is the acceptor. In the process of teaching, it is required to bring certain changes in a student according to the needs of the society where student is living. Teaching is dynamic in nature, that's why it is called as a process. Teaching is both the science as well as art. In the process of teaching, the main motive of the teacher is to develop the student mind. Effective teaching is mostly depend on the teacher. It is believed that a good teacher is born but not made. Training and research also can make a good teacher better and a better teacher best. Teacher must have the following qualities. 1. In-depth knowledge of the subject. 2. Good knowledge of the pedagogical skills to teach the subject. 3. Understand the learner's preparedness with the knowledge. 1.1. Teaching environment. Teacher should follow various methods of teaching devised from time to time. A teacher encourages the practice of thinking among students. Teacher should give to the students the freedom and opportunity to express their ideas. The complete process of education must contain 4 common factors. 1. Educator, teacher. 2. Educand, student. 3. Subject matter. 4. Context, setting. 1.6.1 Pedagogy paradigms. Pedagogy is the science and art of education. The aim of pedagogy is to develop the human beings up to the skill acquisition. The teaching is a professional artistry which requires a teacher to efficiently plan the objective and give the students meaningful knowledge in teaching learning process. In the process of teaching, every teacher evolves themselves every day, and they also develop the unique teaching style based on multiple encounters with their students. In teaching, everyday teacher face challenges and they look for solution to those challenges. Pedagogical environment of teaching helps the teacher to understand the teaching learning process and different teaching strategies. The job of teaching is a complex process which is executed in a sophisticated phases. More or less there are 4 phases. 1. Planning. 2. Execution. 3. Assessment. 4. Reflection. The entire process starting from planning to reflection is totally depends on the teacher's choice and beliefs in the learning paradigm on how students learn. A teacher is able to change their learning plan if they use some teaching model to organize and implement teaching strategies. There are various methods of teaching as suggested by stewards in education system. Planning. Execution. Assessment. Reflection. 1.6.2 Recent trends in pedagogy paradigms. To be a successful teacher, a teacher must have to follow a model of teaching. A model of teaching is basically a plan or scheme prepared by teacher to organize instructional material which helps to implement teaching method and to achieve the goal of the curriculum. According to G.E. Miller, teaching method which places learners in active learning situation are more likely to be effective than those which do not. There are various teaching methods available in the literature. The below table shows the central idea of the teaching method as described by various theorists. In recent development of higher education, it is strongly believed that the process of learning is different from school to universities because students develop the intellectual power for learning. In the higher education, students become more autonomous and resourceful. As a result, in the higher education, students becomes experienced learner. In the higher education, students becomes an independent learner by developing their positive learning habit, and ultimately they becomes masters in their own learning process. Education is basically the process of developing some capabilities into an individuals. Though it is a fact that abilities are always inborn quality, but it is also a fact that these abilities can be nurtured and developed in a learner through various means by an educator. Education must also be relieved and useful from source site's point of view in which the learner is living. The productivity of education can be classified as qualitative and quantitative. Current trends in pedagogy paradigms. Learner. A. All learners are different and unique. B. All learners can learn. C. Learners construct their own knowledge. D. Learners' personal background, priority experience, interlaced and motivation contribute significantly to voice their ability to learn. Teaching. A. Teacher is not a giver of the knowledge. B. Teacher is a facilitator who helps the learner to construct knowledge. C. Teacher's personal beliefs, attitude and experiences affect the choice and style of teaching method. D. Teacher has to be a learner himself, herself to grow as a teacher and evolve themselves. Learning. A. Learning is an active discourse on the part of learner. B. Learning is fully experimental. C. Learning can be strengthened and maximized through appropriate scaffolding and by providing sufficient challenge. Learning can be an enriching experience in a collaborative setting where all learners are part of a learning community who are working together to achieve a common goal. For better and effective education system, both the qualitative and quantitative productivity is required. Here quality means the excellence in textbook, teaching aids, facilities and teachers. The following are the basic components of an effective teaching environment. 1. Knowledge of the teacher and love of subject. Teacher is teaching. 2. Teacher must be enthusiastic for teaching. 3. Teacher must have the knowledge and love with affection for the students. 4. There must be planning, preparation and organization of the teaching method. 5. Teacher must have ability to stimulate the learner thought and interest. Teaching is a creative endeavor that requires flexible organization, modification and adjustment throughout the teaching learning process. Teaching has to differentiate in terms of choice of content, instruction, study materials and assessment to meet the diverse learning needs of the student. Teaching is successful in a stress-free, emotionally secure learning environment. There are total 150 teaching methods available in the literature suggested by theorists. Teaching methods can be classified into 3 broad categories. 1.7 Traditional teaching method. In the ancient teaching method, the teacher was the sender or the source, the educational material was the information or message and students or learner was the receiver of that information. The educator delivered the message by using the chalk and talk method or by using overhead projector. Basically, the teacher controls the total instructional process. The content is delivered to the entire classroom, but the teacher tends to emphasize factual knowledge. In this process, the teacher delivers the lecture content and the learner listens to the lecture. The main drawback in this method is the method is totally passive and the learners play a little role in the teaching learning process. Some limitation which may prevail in traditional teaching methods are as follows. 1. Teaching in classroom using chalk and talk is one-way flow of information. 2. Teachers often continuously talk for an hour without knowing students' response and feedback. 3. The material presented is only based on lecturer notes and textbooks. 4. Teaching and learning are concentrated on plug and play method rather than practical. 5. The handwriting of the lecturer decides the fate of the subject. 6. There is insufficient interaction with students in classroom. 7. More emphasis has been given on theory without any practical and real-life time situations. 8. Learning through memorization but not understanding. 9. Marks-oriented rather than result-oriented. 1.8 Modern teaching method. Modern-day choice of teaching method or methods to be used depends largely on the information or skill that is being taught. And it may also be influenced by the aptitude and enthusiasm of the students. 1.8.1 Lecture method. Lecture method is the most ancient method as prescribed by the theorists. Lecture method is still nowadays frequently used by teachers where a little or no participation from the learner side. A lecture method will be effective if the teacher is experienced and he is the master of the subject, explain all the points and can answer all the question raised by student. In this method, student can ask questions anytime if they need any clarification. Efficiency of lecture method totally depends on quantity of information, style of presenting information, clarity of information. Active listening skills on the part of learners and supplementary material to provide a roadmap for the lecture. 1.8 Modern teaching method. 1.8.1.1 Advantage of lecture method. In the teaching learning process, following points are advantages of lecture method. 1. Lecture method always good for large classroom and it also raise new ideas. 2. In lecture method, students can ask questions anytime if they need any clarification about some particular topic. 3. In lecture method, a good teacher always explain all the points. 4. Teacher discusses old topic and complete the curriculum on time. 5. Students can give their opinion at the end of each lecture. 6. Teacher can control and maintain the direct flow of the information with great interest. 7. It also stimulates the students' interests by giving advanced knowledge of the topics. 8. Lecture method is useful because in this method a large amount of information can be provided to learner in a very short period of time. 1.8.1.2 Disadvantage of lecture method. Lecture methods of teaching is not fully armed with advantages. It has also some drawbacks. 1. Lecture method is totally undemocratic. In democratic country, every person have some opinion to give by means of voting system. In the lecture method, if the teacher is rude, students don't feel safe to ask questions for clarification. 2. Sometimes the learner becomes a silent receiver of information provided by teacher. 3. Lecture sometimes can be boring and unproductive if it is not organized properly. 1.8.1.3 Strategy to make lecture method more interesting. A teacher can make his lecture method interesting to the learners in different ways. Following are the different ways to make lecture method more interesting. 1. Give a roadmap or flowchart by using pointers and also indicates each and every point scale learners follow. 2. All the sequence of information must be rationally sound and logical from learner's point of view. 3. In any lecture method there must not be any communication gap between teacher and learner. So the language of the lecture should be clear and sharp. 4. For each and every topic there must be suitable example from real-world problem. 5. Lectures would start from brainstorming session on the topic which learners have already learned. 1.8.2 Demonstration method. Demonstration teaching method is the best because in this method teacher shows the proof or explain the idea by using some example or experiment. This strategy is useful in technical or training institute where practical knowledge is required. It is used to develop skill in the student and teacher. This method is very much useful for science and technology education. In this method of teaching, students can visualize what is happening. 1.8.2.1 Advantage of demonstration method. Demonstration method of teaching has several advantages as shown below. Because demonstration method shows the example or experiment. It is easy for student to visualize the sequence of process that may be hidden in the theoretical description. This method is the best to prove theorem accurately. Student can easily learn and understand the subject. This method makes interest in the learners and motivate them for their active participation. This method makes teaching learning process interactive. 1.8.2.2 Disadvantage of demonstration method. Following are disadvantages of demonstration method. This method can be used only for skills subject. This method is totally teacher-centric and mostly carried out in an laboratory. This method is highly controllable. To be successful, this method requires accuracy and concentration to get the correct result. 1.8.2.3 Strategies to make demonstration method more effective. In this method, teachers would be a sincere, diligent and skilled person. Teacher must come with the preparation of model. Demonstration must be followed by healthy discussion. Demonstrations would be repeated several times. Discussion method. Discussion is useful between a group of students or between a group of students and teacher. In teaching method, discussions involved stricter discipline and focus explanation of ideas, beliefs and understanding among a group of students on a chosen topic. Discussion method emphasizes pupil activity in the form of discussion, rather than simply telling and lecturing by the teacher. Thus, this method is more effective. 1.8.3.1 Advantage of discussion method. Everybody can participate in the discussion. Democratic way of thinking is developed in the participant. Students in the course of discussion get training in reflexive thinking. Student can express themselves. Students learn to discuss and differ with other members of the group. They learn to tolerate the views of others even if they are unpleasant and contradictory to each other's views. Thus, respect for the viewpoints of others is developed. Learning is made interesting. 1.8.3.2 Limitation of discussion method. All types of topics cannot be taught by discussion method. This method cannot be used for teaching small children. The students may not follow the rules of discussion. Some students may not take part while others may try to dominate. The teacher may not be able to guide and provide true leadership in the discussion. In spite of these limitations, discussion method is a very useful and effective method for the teaching of history. 1.8.3.3 Strategies to make discussion method more interesting. Topic of discussion must be selected from student's interest point of view. Student must come with the preparation for discussion. The teacher should act as an active moderator to allow discussion. 1.8.4 Programmed instruction method. It is one of the improvised method of teaching invented by B.F. Skinner. In this method, the responses of the students are fully controlled by the programmer or teacher. The main aspect of this type of teaching is to change the cognitive domain of the student's behavior. In this method, the students don't have any freedom to respond. There are many computer-assisted programs available in different subjects. Program instruction type teaching is of three types. 1. Linear programming. This is used to teach all the subjects. It is based on 5 fundamental principles. A. Small steps. B. Actively respond. C. Immediate confirmation. D. Self-pace. E. Student testing. 2. Branched programming. This method of teaching is used in mechanical field. 3. Mathematics. In this method chain of elements is presented. First step is the master leave step is the simplest element. 1.8.4.1 Advantages of program instruction. Following are the advantages of program instruction teaching strategy. 1. The main emphasis is on students' involvement in the process. 2. There is no fixed time interval for learning. Students can learn anytime. 3. Students are exposed only for the correct responses. 4. Immediate confirmation of the result is provided to the student and also feedback to the wrong answer is provided. 5. This is totally technology-based. 1.8.5 Disadvantages of program instruction. 1. It is very difficult to develop an instructional program. 2. Only cognitive objectives can be achieved. 3. This process is highly mechanical. 4. There is no scope to invent or explore. 5. Sometimes it may be very expensive. 1.8.5.1 Strategies to make program instruction method interesting. 1. Programmer must have good knowledge of the content. 2. This method must be used as a quiz after the class. 3. It should be used in distance education learning. 4. If it is applied in a classroom, teacher must be present in the class. 1.8.6 Heuristic method. Heuristic method is based on the trial and error theory of psychological principle. One of the prerequisite for this method is logical and imaginative thinking. This method is economical and very faster. In this method, teacher gives the learner questions and asks them to find out the solution by using various techniques like library, laboratory. This teaching strategy is totally focused on 1. To develop problem-solving attitude of the student. 2. To develop scientific attitudes towards the problem. 3. To develop power of self-expression of students. 1.8.6.1 Advantages of heuristic teaching method. Following are the advantages of heuristic teaching strategy. 1. It helps in all-round development of the learner. 2. Students learn by self-expression means it develops self-confidence and self-reliance in the students. 3. It develop creativity and scientific attitude of the learners. 4. Teacher always encouraged the students such that some new knowledge is discovered by the student. 1.8.6.2 Disadvantages of heuristic method. 1. This method cannot be used at primary education level. 2. Students need higher intelligence to capture this method. 3. Very few teachers have a sense to guard their students. 1.8.6.3 Strategies to make heuristic method more interesting. 1. One problem can have solution by using different method. So, it is totally teacher's responsibility to guide the students and to select most relevant solutions of the problem. 2. The problem given to the students must be related to the course and curriculum. 3. There must be an eligibility criteria for distributing the problems to the student. In countries like India, Bangladesh, Nepal and Pakistan, the whole teaching examination method is totally examination-oriented. Teachers don't have a sense to apply this teaching strategy and get the desired result. 1.9 Teaching aid. A teaching aid is a tool used by teachers, facilitators, or tutors to help learners improve reading and other skills, illustrate or reinforce a skill, fact, or idea, and relieve anxiety, fear, or boredom. A teaching aid can be linguistic, visual, auditory or both. Teaching aid can be presented by using following rules. 1. Stimulation, role-play, drama, film, documentary. 2. Blackboard notes, PowerPoint presentation, website resources. The use of teaching aid in the learning process makes the teacher more resourceful, knowledgeable and versatile in her own style of teaching. Teaching aid can be used 1. To reinforce learning process. 2. To strengthen the learning process. 3. To highlight the important points in teaching learning process. 4. To enable students to visualize something which cannot be possible through regular teaching method. Classification of teaching aid. There are lots of teaching aids available in modern teaching society. All the teaching aids can be categorized into two broad streams. 1. Visual teaching aid. 2. Interactive teaching aid. 1.9.1 Visual teaching aids. Visual teaching aids are basically used to provide visual representation of subject matter to the learners in the form of pictures, graph, tables and photo clip. Visual teaching aids make teaching learning process stimulating to the learners. These types of teaching aids are economic well and can be easily used by the teachers nowadays in modern society's needs. 1.9.2 Interactive teaching aids. Interactive teaching aids provide the learner visual images or audio clips or both to respond to the queries. In today's computer world, interactive teaching aids becomes more useful. Use of computerized interactive teaching aids has revolutionized teaching learning process. Types of teaching aids with examples. A. Visual teaching aids. Blackboard. Charts. posters, newspapers, flashcard, board magazines, projector, PowerPoint presentation, television, video, radio. B. Interactive teaching aids, interactive whiteboard, interactive projector, computer software, video conferencing, interactive web resources, digital presentations. 1.10 Teaching Learning Objectives. Objectives are statements which describe the learning outcomes expected to be achieved as a result of the teaching learning process. In other words, objective can be defined in terms of change in the learner's behavior according to the need of the society where learner is living. We will use some of the terms interchangeably used for objective of teaching learning process are 1. Instructional objectives. 2. Learning objectives. 3. Desirable outcomes. 4. Terminal objectives. 5. Educational objectives. 6. Competencies and aims. It is the teacher's duty to plan and write objective of teaching learning process to make the teaching more organized and directed. To make the learning objectives, teacher must take into account what the learner will achieve as a result of engaging in learning activity. The objectivity of teaching learning process must contain a behavior, content, condition and criteria so that teachers can drive, in detail what is learned and how well student can learn it. 1.10.1 Purpose of objective. The objective in teaching learning process has some defined purpose. Following are the few purpose of teaching learning objectives. 1. Organization of the subject matter. 2. Selection of effective instructional objectives. 3. Selection of it is the teaching learning materials. 4. Planning the effective evaluation criteria. 5. Consistent with curriculum goals. 6. Made the appropriate teaching learning process to the levels of the learners. 7. At last the objective must be goal-directed. 1.11 How to write a lesson plan. A lesson plan is a detailed layout of the curriculum a teacher teaches in a given duration of time. A lesson plan makes teachers' life easy by organizing the entire teaching learning process to make the objectivity of teaching learning process successful. Lesson plan determines the vision, aim of the teaching activity to be carried out by the teacher. A lesson plan is a careful detailed plan of instructions about how teacher will teach the subject. An effective lesson plan includes the following steps to be performed. 1.11.1 Pre-planning. Pre-planning means plan before teaching learning process starts. Pre-planning includes the following steps. 1. Carefully scrutinize the subject matter to be taught by the teacher. 2. Make a list of the important topics that teachers will teach. 3. Make the topics in a sequence manner such that students feels comfortable in the whole teaching learning process. 4. Make a list of all the teaching aids that will be used in teaching learning process. 5. Clearly list all the resources and references that used in whole curriculum. 1.11.2 Lesson opening. Before start the teaching, a teacher must have to start lesson opening process. Following rules are typically used. 1. Review all the materials that have been learned by learners. 2. Introduce the lesson by connecting with the previous knowledge of the learners. 3. State the objective of the topics such that students must know why they are learning the topics. 1.11.3 Lesson layout. Lesson layout contains the following steps. 1. Provide details, step-by-step description of everything to be done. 2. Detailed description of the teaching strategies to be given to the learners such that they can come with the preparation. 3. Plan different imaging approaches to meet the individual needs of learners. For example, one teaching method may be suitable for some students while others are not. So, a teacher must be aware of diverse teaching approaches. 1.11.4 Extended practice. To create a good lesson plan, it needs to follow the different steps that is called extended practice. Extended practice needs to follow the below steps. 1. To strengthen the learning procedure, teacher needs to plan the different learning opportunities. 2. Teacher must make sure that student can effectively grasp the lesson inside the classroom. 3. It must give real-life context for wider application of the lesson learned. 1.11.5 Closure of lesson. At the end of the day, teacher must have to review the following thing. 1. Remove the key points of the lesson. 2. Give learner pace to draw conclusions from the lesson. 3. There must be some feature learning opportunities in lesson plan. 1.12 Evaluation system. In any education system, evaluation is a critical part. Evaluation basically means the judgment about the student by the teacher, but this judgment is really tough. Evaluation is an interwoven activity in the process of teaching and learning. Nowadays, evaluation by using the multiple choice questions type is better than the broad question. 1.12.1 Principles of evaluation. Student evaluation in the teaching learning processes must be well planned, goal-oriented and continuous. One piece of paper cannot evaluate a student's ability. So it is better that evaluation must be done inside the classroom throughout the semester. Following are some rules regarding evaluation. The process of evaluation should be informed properly to all the student. Evaluation must be continuous process. Evaluation should be sensitive to learners and must not be biased. At the end of the day, evaluation must be reliable judgment to student. 1.12.2 Difference between evaluation and assessment. In teaching learning process, the terms evaluation and assessment are used interchangeably, but there is some inherent difference between these two terms. Assessment. Assessment is a preliminary phase in the evaluation process. A student can be assessed using the multiple sources like class test, assignment, presentations, quiz, brainstorming session. Evaluation. Evaluation is the action in the entire process that allows teachers to make a judgment based on assessment records with reference to learning objectives. Assessment without evaluation have no purpose. Following are the different evaluation techniques. 1. Written test. 2. Classroom activities. 3. Assignment. 4. Project tasks. 5. Laboratory activities. 6. Social activities. Normally, there are 4 types of evaluation. 1. Criteria referenced evaluation. 2. Formative evaluation. 3. Norm referenced evaluation. 4. Summative evaluation. 1.12.3 Evaluation and test. Test is the most widely used technique for evaluation in the education system and other recruitment system. The questions comes in test from some predefined syllabus and students have to give the answer to those questions in a predefined time frame. There are mainly 2 kinds of test. 1. Teacher-made test. 2. Standard test. Teacher-made test is totally organized by teacher and questions are also set by teacher. Whereas standard test is for very large group where questions is prepared by some central committee.